Now this list is the top 5 video games that I grew up with my childhood that have never left me and I still have to play to this day. Games from the Super Nintendo to the Nintendo 64. Pretty much the 90s era of video games that I grew up with. So here we go. GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64. Why number 5? Well, let's just say that when I was around 7 or 8 years old, back in 1997 I believe it was, this game pretty much defined multiplayer and first-person shooters to what it is today almost. Or at least it was a stepping stone in the right direction.
Before online multiplayer, before all that trash talking that there is today online, you know, people used to sit down in the same room back then, sitting down in front of one TV. And there's a lot of reasons why I love this game. Single player was awesome, but the main reason was the multiplayer factor. You know, getting enough friends, going to one person's house with a copy of the game. If they didn't have enough controllers, you bring some controllers with you. You know, and this is where screen looking became a huge problem. I just remember back then, even recently, I played the game with some friends. You know, and screen looking was still a huge problem. You know, I guess we can't help it. You know, we want to one-up the other person. Although I do admit the controls were a bit difficult for GoldenEye. You know, looking up and down was always so hard. I don't know why. It would take like 5 seconds to look up and down.
But it was a fun time, and I'm glad this is number 5. Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES. Now this was the Mario game for me. You know, others like Super Mario Bros. The original. People like Super Mario World for the SNES. People like Super Mario 64, but this one was the one that I spent the most time on, you know, the side scroller besides, you know, not Super Mario 64. But this one was something special.
After the scandal of Super Mario Bros. 2, Nintendo wanted to make a return to what made the first game so great. And what better way? This game has everything, and I mean everything. You had the Tanuki suit, you had the big boot where you had jump on Goombas, you had the frog suit, you know, you had the traditional fire flower, you had the Starman, but you also had more levels, you had more maps, you had more enemies. I mean, I just remember spending so much time on this game. I mean, this is my favorite NES game of all time. It's also certainly the best looking one too, you know, for the last few years of Nintendo's existence.
This game will always be considered my side-scrolling Mario game. You know, Super Mario World came to a really close, you know, make it on this list, but this one just beat it by a hair. Jumping back to the Nintendo 64 is Star Wars Rogue Squadron. This is another one of those games where I got early on in my childhood and I was addicted to. For a number of reasons actually. Back when I was around 3 or 4 years old, I was introduced to Star Wars for the first time. My dad had the original box cassette collection on the VHS. Yeah, I remember those VHSs.
So what makes this game so special? Well, it's a flight simulator, and it's on the N64, and the graphics were great for the console. The story takes place across the original 3 films and a little bit after. You take flight as Luke Skywalker as you fly around his X-Wing, destroying some TIE fighters, gunships, AT-ATs, you know, all that fun stuff. Take the fight to the Empire. The story's good, the voice acting is awesome, but it's the characters you actually really care about in the game. Take, for example, the first level, you're flying around with your squadron, you're destroying some probe droids, and you fly away from your squadron for like 2 seconds, your buddy will get shot down somehow magically, showing that they can be taken down.
You know, and that's something that the later Rogue Squadrons failed to do. You know, sure they'll blow up, but you know you don't care about them as much because it's not the same characters that you fly with throughout the whole game.
Even though they can be shot down, they can't die. Seconds later, they'll be like, you know, I'm okay, I need a pickup. But, you know, as a kid, that was a big deal to me. You cared about these characters. You want to keep them alive. You want to have them flying up there with you. You know, and I think that really adds to the mission. You know, have them surviving the whole mission and see if you can do that.
I had a lot of fun with this game growing up, and I still go back to this day, discovering new stuff. You know, unlocking new levels that I still haven't done. Just trying to get all the gold medals. It's a fun time. And I'm glad that's number 3.
We did it! We saved Mos Eisley! Nice work, Rogue Squadron. We might make a name for ourselves after all.
Super Mario Bros. 64. I mean, come on. course, it's Super Mario 64 for number 2. Why would it make it on this list? It had to make it on this list. Why not number 1? I'll get to that in a minute. This is another one of those games that you get early on in your childhood and you just spent countless hours on. And there was an awesome commercial I remember seeing back in the 90's for this game. Even though it wasn't really for the game, it was a Got Milk commercial, but I'll show it right here.
Mom. Come on, Mario. Come on, Mario, jump! I'll give up.
Want to grow? The calcium in milk helps bones grow.
Okie dokie.
Mario in the 90's was the best. I mean, sure he's good now, but I think back then he was a lot better.
The story is that Princess Peach invites you over for cake. You show up, you're introduced to this new 3D world of Mario. You walk around, it's very colorful. You walk inside the castle, you find out that Bowser is sticking up the castle's stars, and then everyone's trapped in the walls. You jump at the first painting you get into, you look for the stars, you're joined in, and boom, you're thrown into this world. And it's just, I remember playing this game and thinking like, wow, this is how I always imagined Mario should be in 3D. And, it's just fun. You get to jump off of obstacles, there's more enemies you can jump on, still have that same old classic Mario formula. You can collect red coins, there's a lot more to explore too, and you really have to go out of your way, to explore these items. Not to mention the boss fights are pretty fun. Mario was thrown into the 3D world for the first time, and man, does it look beautiful.
The gameplay was awesome, the story was fun, and best of all, you got to see Mario in the new 3D world. Why is this not at the top of the top 5 list? Here we go. Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. Hopping over to the SNES, back in the 90's, after the success of Super Mario World, Nintendo did a few spin-off titles, Mario's Missing, all that fun stuff. They did Super Mario Kart, which was a great game. Out of all the games on this list, this game has to be the one that I can, go back to and just live nostalgia all over again. I remember playing this game for the first time back in the 90's and expecting, a standard Mario game, kind of like Super Mario World, because this has, the title Super Mario World 2 on it, so I thought it was a direct sequel. And it kind of is, and it isn't at the same time. It's a prequel to Mario's, he's an infant, he's a baby, he's still got a big hat, baby, diaper. There you go, people.
So our story begins with our store carrying the Mario Brothers to the parents. I guess that's the story. When an evil Koopa wizard named Kamek snatches Luigi out of its hands, Mario falls down to the ocean. Looks like he's gonna drown in the sea, and that'd be a terrible end. But lands on Yoshi, perfectly fine, not sure how that's possible. Takes it back to the Yoshis, they don't know what to do. Mario's a baby, has a special link between Luigi, because that makes sense because they're babies. And that's where our game begins. So we get familiar enemies like Shy Guys and Piranha Plants, but on top of that, as Yoshi, you can swallow the Shy Guys and turn them into eggs.
They turn into eggs. I'm not going to go into that one, the science of that. It's a video game, let's just enjoy it.
So after we swallowed our enemies, we can take the eggs and throw them at the enemies. Well, they're bouncing around and falling around. I'm hoping they're not alive still, because that's just kind of wrong. I have so many good memories with this game. I think it was the first Mario game that I beat all the way through from beginning to end as a kid. It took me a while, but I got there. And, it still grabs my attention today. And if it could do that 20 years later, that's just great. And I think that this is not just one of the best Mario games. I think this is one of the best games, period, ever made. I will go down saying that.
Well, there's a lot of special moments in this game. I'm glad that Yoshi's Island made the list. Especially the top of the list. It's one of those games that I remember playing that is just, it got me hooked from the beginning. The gameplay, the enemies, the creative bosses, it was fun. Well, this was my first top 5. There's plenty more to come. I'll be sure to do some movies or other video games, a different type of scenario. But this was just the top 5 of my childhood picks. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. Now Navi, excuse me. I got baby Luigi to rescue. Oh, Mario! I'm coming, Luigi!